Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm here to do my Goodreads update. I have added a lot of books to my Goodreads lately, and I should probably get into them. There's just been a lot of, summer reading guides coming out, and so there's a lot of books. So, anyway, first one is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Jillian McAllister. Recommended. I got this one through Sarah's Bookshelves Live. I can't remember if it was her reading guide or a podcast episode now. But basically the gist of this one is a mother is waiting up for her son, and she sees her son basically kill someone. And so, obviously he gets taken into custody, and, she falls asleep feeling really depressed. And then she wakes up the next morning, and it's the day before this happened. And then she wakes up the morning after that, and it's the day before that. So basically, she is kind of going backwards in time every time she wakes up. And the idea is to try to figure out why he did it, like the cause of it, and can she stop it or not? I mean, I'm not sure if I'll like this one. It really depends. It sounds more like a family story than like a thriller per se. So it sounds kind of interesting, but yeah. So there's that one. Next we have Shooting Kabul by N.H. Senzai. I am so sorry. Some of these names are hard to pronounce. I got this one through Krista from Books and Jams. It's a middle grade book. Basically, in the summer of 2001, Fadi and his family leave Afghanistan illegally and move to the United States. And along the way, Fadi gets separated from his little sister, and she gets left behind in Vietnam. And then September 11th happens, and yeah, it's probably going to be harder to find this little girl. And then it sounds like he's trying to get, I guess his school is having some sort of photography competition, and the prize is a trip to India. So he wants to win that to find his sister. So sounds very heartbreaking and at the same time interesting. So excited about that one. Then we have The Painter's Daughter by Julie Clausen. I found this in a really roundabout way. I was watching Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails videos, and she talked about it was a video about what author she owns multiple books by or something, and she mentioned Julie Clausen, and I remembered that I wanted to read this book by her, but I didn't have Goodreads at the time, so I wasn't able to jot it down. So I went through Julie Clausen's backlist, and I found it. It's called The Painter's Daughter. I guess it's a Regency romance or something. Basically, it's about Sophie. She's a daughter of a portrait painter, but she does secret artwork too. She falls in love with this guy named Wesley, and she gets pregnant, and Wesley's brother comes in to save the day because it sounds like Wesley kind of sucks. He's kind of a wanderer. He's not interested in sticking around. So Wesley's brother comes in to try to save him and marries Sophie, or asks Sophie to marry him, not for love, but because he's going to war anyway, so he figures he'll die and he'll leave her a respectable woman who can do what she wants because she's been married. So, yeah, and I assume she doesn't die, or he doesn't die, because then, she has to choose between these two guys when Wesley comes back all remorseful. So, yeah, sounds interesting. I don't know, the time period, so. And then we have The Wind Knows My Name by Isabel Allende. I know I got this through What Should I Read Next Summer Reading Guide. This is released on June 6th. So I'm going to read the description for this one. Vienna, 1938. Samuel Adler was 6 years old when his father disappeared during Kristallnacht, the night their family lost everything. Samuel's mother secured a spot for him on the last Kindertransport train out of Nazi-occupied Austria to the United Kingdom, where he boarded alone, carrying nothing but a change of clothes and his violin. Arizona, 2019. 8 decades later, Anita Diaz, a blind 7-year-old girl, and her mother board another train, fleeing looming danger in El Salvador and seeking refuge in the United States. However, their arrival coincides with the new family separation policy, and Anita finds herself alone at a camp in Nogales. She escapes through her trips to Azabahar, a magical world of the imagination she created with her sister back home. Anita's case is I'm going to stop here, actually. Basically, these two worlds coincide somehow, but I'm not going to tell you how. I found out, and I wished I hadn't, so this is where I stopped reading. But, Anne Bogle, if you ever watch my channel, why didn't you tell me that there was a blind character in this book? Like she's talking to me when she does her announcements for the summer reading guide. I'm just saying, she never even mentioned that this girl was blind. I'm like, do you not think that would be of interest to me? Anyway, there's that one. Next we have Banyan Moon by Tao Tai. I am so sorry. I'm not going to be able to pronounce these names. I'm going to butcher them. This is released June 27th, also recommended through What Should I Read Next Summer Reading Guide. When Anne Tran gets the call that her fiercely beloved grandmother Min has passed away, her life is already at a crossroads. In the years since she's last seen Min, Anne has built a seemingly perfect life, a beautiful lake house, a charming professor boyfriend, and invites to elegant parties that bubble over with champagne and good taste. But it all crumbles with one positive pregnancy test. With both her relationship and carefully planned future now in question, Anne returns home to Florida to face her estranged mother. Back in Florida, I can't pronounce her name. Her mother is simultaneously mourning her own mother and resenting her for having the relationship with Anne that she never did. Then Anne and her mother learned that Min has left them both the Banyan house, the crumbling old manor that was Anne's childhood home, in all its strange Gothic glory. Under the same roof for the first time in years, mother and daughter must face the simmering questions of their past and their uncertain futures while trying to rebuild their relationship without the one person who's always held them together. Running parallel to this is Min's story as she goes from a love-struck teenager living in the shadow of the Vietnam War to a determined young mother immigrating to America in search of a better life for her children. And when Anne makes a shocking discovery in the Banyan house's attic, long-buried secrets come to light as it becomes clear how decisions Min made in her youth affected the rest of her life and beyond. Long description, but sounds really good. So yeah, I'm really excited for that one. Have to wait a few weeks more, though. Oh well. Family drama and historical fiction. Next, we have a couple of surprises. I'm very hit or miss with romances, so yeah. But Anne Bogle talked about, what's the book called? Okay. The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. And the True Love Experiment is in the same universe as the Soulmate Equation. So I had to read the Soulmate Equation before I could read the True Love Experiment. And I will say, I'm going to talk about it more in my wrap-up, but I actually enjoyed the Soulmate Equation. I wasn't sure if I would. It sounded so corny, but I enjoyed it. I can see why people like Christina Lauren. It's not a clean romance, I'll give you that. There is at least one sex scene, which I fast-forwarded through, but I'll read the description for the Soulmate. The Soulmate Equation. Okay, so single mom Jess Davis is a data and statistics wizard, but no amount of number crunching can convince her to step back into the dating world. After all, her father was never around, her hard partying mother disappeared when she was 6, and her ex decided he wasn't father material before her daughter was even born. Jess holds her loved ones close, but working constantly to stay afloat is hard and lonely. But then Jess hears about Genetic Ally, a buzzy new DNA-based matchmaking company that's predicted to change data to change dating forever. Finding a soulmate through DNA, there are a reliability of numbers. This Jess understands. At least she thought she did until her test shows an unheard of 98% compatibility with another subject in the database. Genetic Ally founder Dr. River Pena. This is one number she can't wrap her head around because she already knows Dr. Pena. The stuck-up, stubborn man is without a doubt her soulmate. But Genetic Ally has a proposition. Get to know him and we'll pay you. Jess, who is barely making ends meet, is in no position to turn it down, despite her skepticism about the project and her dislike for River. As the pair are dragged from one event to the next, as the diamond pair that could launch Genetic Ally's valuation sky high, Jess begins to realize that there might be more to the scientist and the science behind a soulmate than she thought. So, yeah, this just sounded like enemies to lovers, a total jerk guy. I was not interested, but I knew I had to read it if I wanted to read the next one, which sounds more interesting. And yeah, I read this first one and I enjoyed it. I didn't even hate the guy. And I always hate the guy when a book says I'm supposed to hate the guy. Only I never forgive the guy because I hate the guy. Like I said in other videos, when I hate you, I generally hate you. And so if I hate the guy, I'm not going to enjoy the romance. She may like the guy toward the end, but I never do. But this time I didn't hate him. Anyway, guess I gave you my thoughts on that. I already read it. I'm waiting. I'm on hold for The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. I guess I can read the description for this one. It's not really a sequel exactly. It's just the same universe. Sparks fly when a romance novelist and a documentary filmmaker join forces to craft the perfect Hollywood love story and take both their careers to the next level, but only if they can keep the chemistry between them from taking the whole thing off script. Felicity Fizzy Chen is lost. That's a character from the previous book. We met her in the first book, which is why I wanted to read that first. Sure, she's got an incredible career as a beloved romance novelist with a slew of bestsellers under her belt, but when she's asked to give a commencement address, it hits her. She hasn't been practicing what she's preached. Fizzy hasn't ever really been in love. Lust, definitely. But that swoon-worthy, can't stop thinking about him, all-encompassing feeling? Nope, nothing. What happens when the optimism she spent her career encouraging in readers starts to feel like a lie? Connor Prince, documentary filmmaker and single father, loves his work in large part because it allows him to live near his daughter. But when his profit-minded boss orders him to create a reality TV show, putting his job on the line, Connor is out of his element. Desperate to find the romantic lead, a chance run-in with an exasperated Fizzy offers Connor the perfect solution. What if he could show the queen of romance herself falling head over heels for all the world to see? Fizzy gives a hard pass, unless he agrees to her list of demands. When he says yes and production begins, Connor wonders if that perfect match will ever be in the cue cards for him too. I'm interested. So, yeah, I'm waiting on hold for that one. And apparently he is British, so he has a great accent, which is also a plus. I love British accents. Anyway, next we have The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. This is going to be released on August 15th, so a long wait. Also recommended through the What Should I Read Next Summer Reading Guide. And it sounds like this one is about a woman who somehow gets into the Scarlet Letter. So, yeah. It sounds interesting. I don't know. Jump into an old classic. So, yeah. There's that. Then we have The Night Diary by Vera Hiranan. Oh, God. Hiranan. I cannot pronounce his last name. I'm so sorry. This is recommended by Krista from Books and Jams. Okay, so it's 1947, and India, newly independent of British rule, has been separated into two countries, Pakistan and India. The divide has created much tension between Hindus and Muslims, and hundreds of thousands are killed crossing borders. Half Muslim, half Hindu 12-year-old Nisha doesn't know where she belongs or what her country is anymore. When Papa decides it's too dangerous to stay in what is now Pakistan, Nisha and her family become refugees and embark first by train but later on foot to reach her new home. The journey is long, difficult, and dangerous, and after losing her mother as a baby, Nisha can't imagine losing her homeland too. But even if her country has been ripped apart, Nisha still believes in the possibility of putting herself back together. Told through Nisha's letters to her mother, The Night Diary is a heartfelt story of one girl's search for home, for her own identity, and for a hopeful future. Somehow, I think this book is going to make me cry. As all good middle grade does. Next is All the Children Are Home by Patri Francis. I got this one through a new book podcast I just found. It's called the Book Gang Podcast, but I guess the host's blog is called Mom Advice. So this is through the Mom Advice summer reading guide. So yeah. Actually, she recommended the other one by Patri Francis that I'm going to talk about, but I found this one through looking at the author. Patri Francis just recently passed away. She lost her battle with cancer, so that's very sad, but, well, like I said in the podcast, the books help the author live on, so I found 2 books of hers that I want to read. So, first is All the Children Are Home. This one is, when Dahlia decides to become a foster mother, she had a few caveats. No howling newborns, no delinquents, and above all, no girls. A harrowing incident years before left her a virtual prisoner in her own home, forever wary of the heartbreak and limitations of a girl's life. 11 years after they began fostering, the Moscatellis are raising 3 children as their own, and Dahlia and Louis consider their family complete. But when the social worker begs them to take a young girl who has been horrifically abused and neglected, they can't say no. 6-year-old Agnes Juniper arrives with no knowledge of her Native American heritage or herself, beyond a box of trinkets given to her by her mother and dreamlike memories of her sister. Before long, the stranger in their midst has strengthened the bond in this unusual family, showing them how to contend with outside forces that want to tear them apart. So, yep, excited about this one. And I got it super cheap from Libro FM. It was like $4. So I was really excited. Now, the book that was on the summer reading guide is The Orphans of Race Point by Patri Francis. Set in the close-knit Portuguese community of Provincetown, Massachusetts, The Orphans of Race Point traces the relationship between Hallie Costa and Gus Silva, who meet as children in the wake of a terrible crime that leaves Gus parentless. Their friendship evolves into an enduring and passionate love that will ask more of them than they ever imagined. On the night of their high school prom, a terrible tragedy devastates their relationship and profoundly alters the course of their lives. And when a decade later, Gus, now a priest, becomes entangled with a distraught woman named Eva and her daughter Mila, troubled souls who bring back vivid memories of his own damaged past, the unthinkable happens. He is charged with murder. Can Hallie save the man she's never stopped loving by not only freeing him from prison, but also, finally, the curse of his past? Yep. Sounds really interesting. Next is You Were Always Mine by Christine Pride and Joe Piazza. This is coming out on June 13th. I got this one through Sarah's Bookshelves Live. This author duo wrote We Are Not Like Them a couple years ago, and that book was really interesting, so this one sounds just as interesting. It's about two women. One of them, I guess, is pregnant, and the other one finds her baby. And the one that finds the baby is black, and the baby is white, and kind of, I guess, what happens with that. And I guess the birth mother's parents find out, and they don't want their baby raised by a black woman. So it's like a custody battle type of thing. So sounds interesting. And next is Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon. I got this one through Lindsay's Little Library. I've heard about this before. I read What the Wind Knows by Amy Harmon, but I hadn't thought about reading her other ones. I mainly read What the Wind Knows because it was time travel. But this one is about a family who basically travels the Oregon Trail. And, you know, all the dangers they go through. So, sounds kind of exciting and dangerous and scary. So, I'm excited for that one. Next is When Jasmine Blooms by Tiff Marcello. I got this one through Krista from Books and Jams. This is supposedly some kind of Little Women retelling, but I don't see it. But I'll read the description. It's been 2 years since Celine lost her daughter, Libby. Desperate to escape her grief, Celine throws herself into her work, determined to be the strong, capable woman the world believes her to be. But there's no fooling her family. A shocking intervention brings an impossible choice. Confront her grief or risk losing the family she still has. Reeling, Celine wonders what her life would have been like if she'd chosen her first love instead of her husband and avoided this pain altogether. Celine wakes the following day and is shocked to realize that has become reality. She's with her high school sweetheart. Her daughters aren't quite her daughters, and her home is being rented by the daughter she thought she'd lost forever. As she reconnects with Libby in this parallel world, Celine is forced to face the problems in her real life. Her unwillingness to move forward, the tension that's always rocked her family, and the hard truth that not everything can be fixed by a mother's love. So, yep. And last book, I promise, The Whispers by Ashley Audrain. This comes out on June 20th. I heard about this one through the What Should I Read Next Patreon. And Bogle just did an episode of extra books she did not put in the summer reading guide. And yeah, Ashley Audrain's next book was one of them, but still sounds pretty interesting. She wrote The Push, which was wild. But this one sounds really different. I guess a kid falls out of his bedroom window and ends up in a coma, and like all the people in the neighborhood are kind of trying to, you see the lives of the people in the neighborhood, I guess, and the different kinds of families and mothers, and I can't describe this, I'll just read it. The Loverleys sit by the hospital bed of their young son who is in a coma after falling from his bedroom window in the middle of the night. His mother, Whitney, will not speak to anyone. Back home, their friends and neighbors are left in shock, each confronting their own role in the events that led up to what happened that terrible night. The warm, altruistic Parks, who are the Loverleys' best friends. The young, ambitious Goldsmiths, who are struggling to start a family of their own. And the quiet, elderly Portuguese couple who care for their adult son with a developmental disability, and who passed long days on the front porch watching their neighbors go about their busy lives. The story spins out over the course of 1 week, and the alternating voices of the women in each family as they are forced to face the secrets within the walls of their own homes, and the uncomfortable truths that connect them all to one another. Set against the heart-wrenching drama of what will happen to Xavier, who hangs between death and life, or a life change forever. The Whispers is a novel about what happens when we put our needs ahead of our children's. Yikes. That's harsh. But I'm excited. So, yeah, those are the books that I have added to Goodreads in the past couple of weeks. I hope you found some of them interesting. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!
Speech on. Stop recording video.